All right, we're going to talk about a couple different options of dragging a firefighter. The reason why we need this is we've talked before about the use of an SCBA and how to use it, convert it into a harness. But when you have a firefighter who is disoriented, he runs out of air, takes his pack off or his mask, and now you're down to just him and his turnout gear. And we have some big problems. If anybody remembers the Brett Tarver incident, there's obviously multiple maydays. There was a lot of things that they learned from that we learned from it. But one of the big things that pertains to this drill is the fact that as soon as he ran out of air and he removed his pack and his SCBA, he became disoriented with CO poisoning and all that, to the point where he really didn't know what he was doing and just started peeling layers off. When the rescue crews got there, the RAC companies got there, they were able to get their hands on Brett Tarver once he was unconscious. But the problem was when they went to pull on him, they just pulled his coat right off. They pulled all of his clothing off. There was really nothing for him to grab a hold of, especially the environment. It was completely black. They couldn't see anything. Very hot, and around them, since they were in a shopping center, the floor was very smooth like glass, and all the containers of fryer oil that were nearby on the shelves had melted or exploded, and there was oil everywhere. So the firefighters themselves from the rescue companies were covered in oil, and so was Tarver. So it was very, very hard for them to get a positive connection to him to get him out. They eventually ended up using, obviously, rope systems and using a Stokes basket and things like that. But in this case, we have now built into our turnout gear a device that is called a DRD. So we're going to go ahead and demonstrate this, and Scott's going to show where the DRD is and a couple options on how to use it.
Basically, it's located back here on the back. It's set up into the inside of the actual gear itself. One thing you got to make sure that the firefighter that is using it has this clasp buckled. So basically, obviously, that's a big point on wearing your gear properly, making sure it's on properly. So as long as that's in there and it's routed correctly in the gear, it's pretty simple. You just pull it out. Obviously, you can see it's built into this. So then it's ready.
He's good. I'll just cut it down. This DRD obviously is an option. Now, some departments have this, some departments don't. It's obviously a new standard in the industry, so all the newer gear is going to have it in there. We do still have some people with older gear, and you may run into that, whether they end up with a replacement coat because their stuff's out of service or whatever reason. They don't have a pack, and you go in a rescue situation, well, they don't have a DRD. Well, then we're going to have to use something to replace that with, and there's a few different options of using webbing to rescue the firefighter. We're going to go over that next.
All right, so in this situation, we have a down firefighter. We have no pack on. All right, so what we're going to do is use our webbing. Since we don't have our DRD hitch here in the back, our safety, we're going to go ahead and go around them. We're going to run our webbing back through to make a hitch here on their back. And then what we do is we take 2 bites, we put them up under their arms. We go ahead and lay him back. Okay, so now what you have is you have a hitch all the way around it. Now you can use 2 guys or you can use 1 guy on this. Okay, if you just put them together, you can pull with 1. You might need a little bit longer webbing for this. I think we have a 20-foot section here. You might need even a little bit longer. But if you get a second guy in on that side, you get 1 from each side. Ready?
Ready?
Go.
Okay, the drill we just did with the webbing, first off, the way Dower showed it, that's one way of doing it. We're going to show another method where you don't need the 2 bites over the shoulders, but it limits you to having 1 firefighter as a rescuer. This way, we're going to have, just like that drill, and this one too, you need a 20-foot piece of webbing in your gear. 10-foot piece of webbing isn't necessarily going to work as well for this, and it's not as versatile. If you have a long piece of webbing, you can always tie it down or manage it, and you're not limited. If you end up with a bigger guy, that 10-foot piece of webbing is probably not going to make it all the way around him tied in a water knot. So, when we take our firefighter here, set him up, all we're going to do in this case is we're going to just wrap it around him, okay? And then we're going to create a girth hitch, just like we did on the first one. But the issue we run into is I've now got all this slack. What we want to do is we want to get close to this connection point here. Give yourself 3 good wraps. That takes up the majority of your webbing. Then turn your hand and grab the webbing that's on the center of the back, close to that connection point. Now you don't have a bunch of stuff hanging and dangling down. Now, at this point, I can stand up and drag, or I'm back down to my low drag. So it works out either way pretty well.
So what this is for is just if you got a shorter piece of webbing, this is just kind of the down and the dirty, the quicker method. And what you can do is you can just take his arm here, one over, pull up your slab, another over, pick up your slab, lift this helmet. This is the key part here, is getting this tight around the shoulder. There's your drag. The only downfall of this is if you keep tensioning and loosening, you can lose your arms. They can start to come out a little bit, and then you can slide off. Otherwise, if you've got it tight and you've got it dressed nicely, and you keep tension on it, you won't have any problems. Again, this can be a 1 or 2 person drag.